Today we're going to be taking a look at my '04 Grand Marquis, and the reason you don't see it on the show very often is because it's kind of difficult to get such a long, wide vehicle in such a tight, narrow space. I mean, you just it's a small garage, it's a large car, and just, you get trouble fitting it in sometimes. Yeah, no, gotta be a better way to say that. Gotta be a better way to say that. I'm your host, High Lord Fox, and this is High Lord Fox's Garage. Thank you for sticking through that terrible joke. Hopefully I will keep it light on the puns for the rest of this video. But in all honesty, we are working on my '04 Grand Marquis. This is the first time it's been on the show, usually because it's been pretty reliable. And as my daily driver, it's kind of hard to take it off of the road to do work on it as opposed to the rest of the fleet in which, and just take it off and be in it. So, today's project is we are replacing the alternator, the serpentine belt, and this battery. The battery doesn't really need to be replaced, but I need a battery for the Grand Prix project, so this one is going to be donated to that car, so I'll have some sort of battery. In addition, the alternator's been a little bit weak. The last couple weeks been running the air conditioner, it's been really hot, and as I've noticed, the little gauge is a little lower than it should be. So I took my handy dandy, high-end multimeter, and if you take it and connect it up as such, it should read, while the car is running on older models like this, while running, anywhere from 14 to 14.5 volts. Idle, a little bit higher while the car is running. Unfortunately, mine was about 13.75, so that was enough to actually charge the battery. However, it's a little low and a little weak, and all things considered, as this is my daily driver, I don't want to risk having the battery drain out or having the alternator go because it's already on the way. It's a 16-year-old alternator. It's seen 180,000 miles. It's probably due for a replacement. So we are going to be popping this bad boy out here. A lot easier than the Grand Am because it's the superior Ford Panther platform. V8 right on top, right in the spot. So we're going to get this out. I got to take the cover out. We're going to replace the serpentine belt while we're in here because the belt is a couple years old and it's like 20 bucks for a new one. So while I'm in here, and then I'm going to take the battery out, drop a new battery in, and show you all the cleaning and everything I got to do because this one's also quite gangly. Tops. I have actually cleaned these and sprayed these. This has been since like a year ago. And what we do have, this model does take a 65 series. This is roughly considered a silver or mid-tier, as I flip around so you can actually read the things, which is 900 cranking amps, 750 cold cranking amps, and 140 amps reserve capacity. The new battery is going to be even better. It is considered the gold series, which is 850 cold cranking amps, 1,000 cranking amps, and 150 or 160 reserve capacity minutes at 25 amps. So it's going to be a little bit better of a battery, and hopefully we'll carry on for another 6 to 10 years. I don't know. This battery was put in before I bought the car, so it's at least 6 years old. So 6 to 8 years, it's a good time to swap the battery out. This is the old alternator. It's a little rusty inside, as you can see, and I have sprayed the bolts with penetrating lubricant, so hopefully they'll come right out. The belt, as you can see, is has a few little scratches in it, little wear points on it, and really it's still in good shape, but as I said, it's 20 bucks for a new belt, and better safe than sorry for things like this. I haven't had a belt snap off on me yet in all my years of driving, but I don't ever want that to happen. So when we go to take this off apart, the first thing is we have to remove the top cover. It's just a simple 1/4 inch extension square, and you stick it in and you twist, and that pops off this top cover, a very, very dirty top cover. I'm not going to bother washing it because, as you can see from the rest of the engine, it's a dirty mess in here. Not super worried about it. It's a daily driver, not a show car. And then once I get that off, the next step is this tensioner right here. It gets a 3/8 ratchet square, and then you just apply pressure, pop the belt off the top right here, and you are good to go. And then you just pull everything off, run the new ones, put the new stuff in, and go to town. First step, disconnect the battery. You're going to want to take the battery terminals off very gingerly and avoid touching any of the stuff there, because it's generally slightly corrosive to hands, and it's probably not very good to get in your mouth or face or nose or eyes or anything like that. And or probably not supposed to get spread all over the side of your car. So we're gonna get that cleaned up. Just for reference, that was a 8mm socket, and yeah, don't do that. There you go. It's just straight up one nut on the top. Put it back, let it loose, because I lost those before, and it's not exactly a cheap or easy thing to replace. And the cover, V8. There's 6 bolts, 2, 4, 6. 1 nut, if I can get this cover off, and a power connectory thingy, which I have to pry off. So that's your basic connections. It's pretty simple to pull off, both literally and metaphorically, and it's in a much nicer spot than various other vehicles like transverse mounted or anything like that. The nice thing about this year, well actually basically anything 97 onwards, is a lot of the stuff is directly accessible from the top. I had a 95 one of these, and things like the EGR valve and some of the other mechanism things are really low and in the back. It's a pain in the ass. Haven't had to do anything EGR related on this one, but is much easier to access right here. And I have taken this entire top end apart. There was a leak a couple years ago right here. The intake manifolds on these do tend to go, they tend to wear. If you have one of the original plastic ones, they crack across here because this is plastic on the original ones. This one's a nice metal, so it's not going to crack. My problem was a leaky seal down here. So if you have these and it's older than probably about 10 years old, and you can turn wrenches yourself, take it apart, it's probably about a 3 to 4 hour job. Most of it is getting back a bolt in the back, but otherwise it's pretty easy to pull apart and get at it. I got some pictures I'll try and throw up on there. But yeah, side tangent. Intake manifold. Very done. Hopefully it won't break anymore. Won't have to make a video on that. Won't have to curse it out because of that bolt in the back. But let's get this, let's actually get the belt off first, then the alternator. Let's do it in the correct order and not be stupid today. So I have purchased, not specifically for today, and I've had this for a little bit, this is a Pittsburgh brand long angled socket ratchety thing. They flex both sides. It's got a 1/4 inch end and a 3/8 inch end, and this is long enough to give you enough grip to be able to latch it in here, like so, and then apply pressure. And you apply clockwise pressure. It takes pressure right off, comes right out. Really, really simple. I really like this design on these V8s, on the 5-liter V8s of the same era. So the Mountaineer, there is no notch in the idler or tensioner pulley in this assembly. You actually have to put the ratchet and socket on, usually 15mm, and turn that. That loosens the pressure on it. I don't like it because it feels wrong, like you're over tightening it. I like the much bigger fan of the actual where you just slip the ratchet right in there. So we're going to leave that down there because that's actually going to stay out of the way. And we're gonna get to taking this off. I think it's probably like a 10 or 11 millimeter bolts on the top and around the outside, and I gotta get a screwdriver to apply the plugs off. Now, although I have taken these off, apparently last time I did not never seize them. I will be rectifying that mistake this time. It's pretty much a good sign that anything I've worked on has never seized on it. I know I've taken the alternator off to do the intake manifold before, so definitely made a mistake by not never seizing those. That will be rectified come the installation. This one had some dielectric grease on the back of it, which is currently all dried up and gone bad. So we're going to have to scrape that off of the wire. So we're going to have to scrape this off. In addition, you don't actually have to pull these two bolts all the way out. There are notches on the bottom of the alternator. It just slides right up. And here we go. The old one. There's a core charge on these, so you gotta return them. Usually 10-15 bucks. So it's a little worse for wear. Doesn't really spin very well. So this goes back. We're gonna get the new one out. So before you can remove the battery, there is a mount thing that holds it in place that I conveniently forgot about. So take that off first.
This is the first time I've ever had to remove this battery. So, a little bit rusted, a little bit rustedy, broken in place. So I had to remove the entire battery box, which, preventative maintenance. Had I waited until the battery had died, it would have probably died on the side of the road, and I would be stuck doing this in the rain, on the side of the road, in the middle of December, because that's always when they tend to break. So, now that I got that loose, I'm gonna take a quick breather, and I'll come back and we'll get that battery out, because it's a little warmer in here. That took a lot more out of me than I expected. So I briefly took a quick break, went and got dinner and some equipment from the parts store, one of which is a replacement bolt from the old one. It's a bolt, it's a mount, plastic, and another long bolt. All camera bit, I put this in the vise and tried to take the old one off, and it snapped, so now I have the new one to replace it. Unfortunately, the piece right here on the bottom that holds it in place was rusted and had a bolt snapped off in it. So I got a new bolt, some 5-minute epoxy, and epoxied the hell out of it with a new nut in place. It's an M6 by 10 nut. And I put, this is in there just so no epoxy dries in the center. It unfortunately will take about 4 hours to dry. So I'm going to go assemble the rest of this. And then while I'm doing that, hopefully this will have time to dry. And depending on how long it takes to reassemble, I may or may not have this in tonight.
We have quick start guide. Look at that. Battery, corrosion, factor freight, burnt loose. This is just for checking everything else. Turn key off, insert memory saver. Yeah, whatever. Don't care about that. So, this is shiny new one. Ooh, it looks much nicer than the old one. Spins for quite a bit longer than the old one too. So, first things first, make it never sees out, and we're going to put the two big bottom bolts in. That's all in place. We have 6 screws, 1 bolt, 1 plug. 2, 4, 6 bolts, 1 nut, 1 plug, and the belt. So, to put tension on the belt again, a handy dandy 3/8 ratchet. Tension. Let's run up. Checked. Checked. Check. Check. And check. Alright. So that's changing the alternator. Honestly, very quickly, as long as nothing goes wrong. Battery. Honestly, very quickly, unless nothing goes wrong. So I'm going to wait for the epoxy to dry. Once that's dry, I'll give it another couple hours. I'll be back out here to put the battery box in and everything. But I want to make sure the alternator works before I wait for all that. So we're going to hook the battery up, we're going to start her up, and we're going to make sure that it's got enough voltage going out. So I'll be right back and let's take care of that. Alright, so we have an alternator's in, everything's in, it's making normal amount of noise, new battery starts, just kind of sitting there, obviously it's not long term. So, I have my multimeter, connections, we're wedging it together at idle over 14. Well, when they actually make connection, over 14, which is better than the old one, which was about 13 and a half. So, new alternator, new battery, this will charge right up, and I'll probably do a little bit higher voltage once I actually get these connectors actually properly connected. These just half-ass sitting in there. So, that means the alternator is working. I can finish buttoning up the top of the engine and set this aside for when I actually get the battery box in, which is where we're going to pick up hopefully tonight, possibly tomorrow. So I took everything while I was waiting and cleaned it off with some PB Blaster so that they'll be nice and clean for when I put them into the Never Sees and put them back. So I won't have the rough problems I had before. In addition, here is the broken off bottom. This what happens is they rust, and here's the piece on the bottom. It's supposed to be a metal piece that holds it in place. They get rusted, they get corroded, and they're always a pain. So if you have an older one, buy one of the replacement things ahead of time and prepare to have a replacement pin off of like eBay or something, or be prepared to epoxy it if you don't have time to wait for one on order. So in addition, I've gone and I've taken the drill with a brush to these, cleaned them off. I used also my hand cleaner thing and some electronics cleaner, and they are nice and shiny. Definitely tell that they're copper. This one as well. I have noticed that the bottom of this one's a little corroded away. It's a little bit corroded away. So a little chunk is missing right here, but there's more than enough connection here and more than enough strength between the rest of it to hold it in place. The important parts are there. Also, I'm incredibly lazy and don't feel like remounting several wires to it because it goes off on two sides. So I've also noticed this is a little cracked. I'll get some electrical tape on that. You know, it's just a covering. Keep it safe. Alright, so it's a little later in the night and I've finished my epoxy job. This is what it looks like from the top. So you got a big hole in there and you got the thing in there. And if I reverse it, see, I took a Dorman nut and a Dorman washer and I epoxied them down with a 5-minute epoxy, which is basically you have 5 minutes till it hardens and 4 hours till it stays. I ran the nut, or the bolt I had, the second bolt I had, sorry, through to make sure no epoxy got inside, and then I ran and wiggled around with the actual
mounting bolt that's supposed to go there, and it sits in tight. Plus it'll be nice and never seized, so hopefully this shouldn't rust out and it should stay. If not, all the rest of the bolts around the battery are going to be never seized, I'm sorry, which means that if I have to remove it again, it should be a lot easier than this time in which where I had to wrench them all free from their rusted mounts. So let's get started with putting this mount back in its place.
Let's give it a crank, make sure she starts. So, like I learned how to say in high school, we're golden, Pony Boy. Got my alternator in. Didn't change the belt, but the belt actually didn't need to be changed, so now I've got a spare. Got a new battery in after taking the whole battery box out, lubricating all of the bolts that holds it in place, and basically epoxying a new nut and washer to the bottom. Links to what I used are in the description. And thank you for watching. I will hopefully have more car videos coming. I'm planning on doing some work on the rest of the fleet tomorrow, and hopefully next weekend will be the next Grand Prix filming, get the engine out of that. And, well, really, there's not much more to say other than thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and have a nice day.
Hey folks, thanks for watching and joining me on this adventure. I'd like to take a moment and give a big shout out to Advance Auto for being there for me on this project. They had all the parts I needed that I ordered in advance, plus everything I needed to pick up in the middle when things with the battery box went south. So links are in the description for all the parts that I used, and that's about it. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification icon, stuff money in an envelope and send it to my P.O. box. You know, the whole range of things. And be sure to stay tuned for more videos. If you want to check out the other Mercury in my fleet, you can click in here. And if you want to check out my big project, the Grand Prix, you can click here. Thanks again, and have a nice day.